Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Campfire. It's me, your favorite rocker and rock and roll artist, Elvis Presley.
Elvis,
Uh-huh.
you're alive?
I'm alive. Listen, we're going to go ahead and cut the chase. Welcome to this 5 second video where I'm telling you I have died and I am actually really alive, living inside this hunk of a man.
Oh man, if you are new, welcome to Beyond the Campfire. I am Steven, aka Sihel the Disciple. I am here
And
with
I'm Elvis Presley.
uh,
Uh-huh.
here with my co-host Will the Cowboy, and yeah, we are Beyond the Campfire. We talk about cultures and conspiracy theories. One of them being, did Elvis Presley really die in 1977, or did he go? So yeah, you can
Well,
follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Beyond Campfire. You can also follow us on TikTok at Beyond the Campfire Podcast. But yeah, without further ado, Will, you have anything you want to start us off with today?
this is this is going to be a quick episode because, as you can tell, like I said at the beginning, I'm not really dead. But the really cool thing is that I can go from Elvis to "Hey, little boy, you want to go to Neverland?"
Oh man, well, we got to do the Michael Jackson episode at some point,
Yeah.
but yeah, today we are covering Elvis Presley. So Will, did you grow up a Elvis fan at all?
Nope, I don't. Overplayed. Like he's nowhere near my top five.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think he's definitely right. I mean, talented guy for sure. He definitely had an energy to him that would perform on stage. But just looking at this list of top three artists of all time, at number three you have Michael Jackson. At number two you have Elvis, and then at number one you have Beatles. Another band I think is is overhyped. But Elvis, he's good. I like a
Yeah.
few of his
No one
songs.
Beatles song.
Right, but I don't know if I would have met top two artists of all time. Um,
Listen, I don't know what those ladies back then were thinking. Like, what was our grandmas thinking? You know, you didn't know good music, Grandma. No wonder you're deaf now. You were probably tone deaf back then.
hey, the slicked back hair, the
The swerving hips.
yeah, which at that time I know can like dance style was a very kind of more a little bit more traditional, a little bit more formal. When Elvis came on the scene, the way he would move his body was very shocking to the American conscience, but it really caught people's attention in a way that very really no artist before him had done it
Mhm.
up to that point. So
I think that's why those guys are in the top three is because they did something that a lot of artists tried to do and couldn't really do well, and they found a knack for it and took off. And that's why we're hoping that we can find a knack for podcasting and that we can take off.
yeah, we will see. So follow us on the social medias, listen to our podcast, share it. Uh, we greatly appreciate it. Um, but yeah, allegedly on in August of 1977, Elvis Presley died. He was found unresponsive on a bathroom floor by his then fiance, Ginger Alden. And yeah, there was a lot of suspicious kind of activity surrounding his death. But we'll go back to the first few months before because leading up to his death, and this supports the official report that Elvis had a normal death, that he actually died. The months leading up to his death, he was getting sick. He had
Yeah.
started in a lot of weight. He wasn't able to really move quite the way he did before. There's a lot of theories of like, was it because he was taking certain drugs? Was there other things going on? And we'll kind of get into some of those things um, a bit later. But nonetheless, he persevered. He pushed through, and he would do a lot of tours. It was hard on his body, but he said, hey, I want to keep performing for people, and I keep wanting to do this. Um, so, I guess before we kind of even get into the conspiracy theory aspect of it, you know, Will, if you're having a career and you're kind of at the end of your rope, do you feel like you're the kind of guy that would maybe push through, or do you think you would start to maybe look for some kind of retirement?
Well, I don't even need to have fame to know that I would love to fake my death, take my insurance money, move out to the Alaskan wilderness, you know, live off grid. So I wouldn't put it past like somebody, if you make a lot of money and you're having fun, like with us with podcasting, like, we're having fun doing it. And it's a question of like, at what point does the fame become too much to where the fun is gone and what you're doing? And I feel like once you become famous like Elvis was, you can't just say I'm retiring. You can say that all you want, but it's going to be hard to walk into a restaurant without getting noticed. It's going to be hard to go to the movie theater without getting noticed. You're going to have people coming up to your gates, wanting to see you. And so like, if you have the money and you have the means to do it, why not fake your death? Why not disappear?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Elvis, near the end of his life, he had more or less cemented his legacy. There's a few artists that really become more famous after they die. And to some degree, that was true of Elvis as well. But I mean, during his lifetime, I mean, he had it all. He had all the money, all the fame, all the women that he could possibly want. And by the time he supposedly dies at the age of 42, it really, a lot of people felt like there really was not much left he had to prove or to show. And so I think part of the reason the conspiracy theories are fueled the way they were is just it's just like, hey, he had done everything he wanted to do. He wanted to live his days in peace. You can't really do that if you're alive.
No,
Or at
no.
least people think you're alive.
Yeah. And I guess I could also like, the theories could possibly also stem from like, okay, I'm a big our grandmas, all right? How many of our like I bet you're like my grandma probably knows I think she said like she remembers the day that Elvis died. And it's like a question of, okay, could the conspiracy theories be spawned off because why would Elvis truly die? I mean, like maybe he wanted to retire, but also could stem partly from like fans being like, Elvis, he's so great. There's no way he's dead. Like they don't want to give up on him.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he was very young. Like, if he did indeed die on August 16th, 1977, he was 42 years old. I mean, even Michael Jackson was considered to have died pretty young at the age of 50. But I mean, 42, you do wonder how many more albums, how many more songs could he have released, how many more performances he could have done. And so I think when his death came out, and just the way it was, the level of fame that he had, it was very embarrassing for people to think, wow, he died on the toilet seat, overdosed on drugs at the age of 42. It's just like,
Yeah.
no way. There's no way my hero, my Elvis,
Mm.
is going out.
There's a lot of artists like that we'll probably end up covering. Like, I know that like there's a conspiracy theory that Elvis killed himself because, you know, um like he was probably wanting to escape and be, get away from the fame. Same thing like with Michael Jackson. People believe Michael Jackson. But there are some other conspiracy theories that we might cover, like Janis Joplin. There's a theory that she was killed by the CIA. I think it was Janis Joplin. But it's like it really makes you wonder like why we come up with these conspiracy theories about these celebrities. Like
Honestly, a lot of times it's just like you don't want to let somebody go, especially when they die young. Like, someone dies in their 70s and 80s, and you're like, okay, they've done their career, and things like that. Um, but yeah, with people like Elvis and Michael Jackson, you do wonder like how many more songs could they have made? How many more
yeah,
albums could they have produced? So yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm gonna read um, the official quote unquote death report, and then we'll kind of get into why conspiracy theories spawn, because I think usually conspiracy theories form when there's mistakes that are made, and when mistakes are made, you start to doubt the official story, and then when you doubt the official story, the door is open for alternative explanations to come into play. So August 16th, 1977, Elvis Presley is scheduled to take a flight from Memphis to, and remember that he's in Memphis. That's where he was
Hmm.
found.
That's
He's scheduled
Graceland.
to take a flight from Memphis to Portland, Maine, to do another tour. That afternoon, however, his fiancee Ginger Alden finds him unresponsive on the bathroom floor in his Graceland mansion. There's attempts to revive him, and they fail. And he is eventually pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial Hospital at 3:30 p.m. Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated. So, an autopsy is taken um, the same day that Elvis Presley died, and
Hmm.
Memphis medical examiner Jerry Francisco announced that the immediate cause of death was cardiac arrest and
Yeah.
declared that no drugs played a role in Presley's death.
Hmm.
However, uh, later autopsies say that drug use was heavily implicated in Presley's death. Uh, there was pathologists later on that says that he had suffered anaphylactic shock brought on by codeine pills he had gotten from his dentist, to which he was known to have a mild allergy. Another report filed 2 months after his death strongly suggested that polypharmacy was the primary cause of death, reporting that there was 14 drugs in Elvis' system at the time, 10
Good
in
Lord.
significant quantity. Um, there's a couple other reports too. I won't read all of them, but there's just report after report after report, all of them saying various different things. And so when you have so many different reports by several well accredited doctors, I mean, you got to believe something is up.
Yeah, and that's like I mean, that's something I just learned something because like growing up, I always heard like Elvis died because he took a lot of drugs and he couldn't poop and then died on the toilet. That's what I always heard. But like to hear that there was some people were like, oh, there was no drugs in the system. Oh, he died of cardiac arrest. Oh, he died of this. What did Elvis die of?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And um, I'd have to look up whether Ginger Alden, his fiance, knew anything, because I feel like if there was anybody that would have known Elvis's drug use at the time, which I mean, it is pretty documented that he was taking pills and things like that for various things, partly depression, partly just the way his health was.
Yeah. Well, you know what the
I,
three you know what the three words are with rock and roll:
oh yeah, yeah.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. What would you know about Will the Cowboy?
Huh?
What do you know about that? No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Have you, well, listen. I mean, not to get off topic from
Will
Elvis,
Will is the
but
married man. I'm not implying anything.
I
So
I need me. You know what movie I'm gonna have you watch with me when you come to visit this weekend?
what's that?
We're gonna watch The Dirt.
The Dirt.
It
Okay.
is the documentary of Motley Crue's wild, wild, crazy days of rock and roll. You thought Elvis was a rock star?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay.
You're
Let's
fixing to see some tits, Steven.
Oh man. I'll have to post a review for that movie at some point. Okay. So um yeah. So all these conflicting reports. Elvis's funeral is interesting. So there's reports that at his funeral, Elvis's body was sweating, which, if you know anything about bodies, they don't sweat when
They
they're
get
dead.
cold, not warm.
Right? Yeah. So, which many people believe that Elvis's body was replaced by a wax figure, and that wax figure started to kind of melt a little bit, which would
Mm.
explain the sweat marks. I didn't look too much into that. I mean, people were emotional. I'm sure they were kind of looking for something to say, like, "Oh, this isn't actually Elvis's body."
Or that
Uh,
Elvis is alive somehow.
right, right. Uh, and so, yeah, I mean, there's just weird things like that. There really wasn't a straight story about how he died. There was that weird thing at his funeral. Um, this is where the conspiracies. theory really starts, and I think this is where things start to get uh, kind of interesting. So earlier, I mentioned um, that Elvis was in Memphis, and one of the most popular places that people think that if Elvis was alive, where he fled to was Argentina.
Hmm.
There's
What
also
is it with
theories that
Argentina, man? What is it with Argentina?
I was gonna say, because didn't people say Hitler fled there too?
Yeah,
If
like not just like Hitler, like there's the theories that Hitler fled there, but there's like actual documented that some Nazi officers did flee to Argentina.
Hey, I mean, sunny place, beautiful beaches. Not really a place you would think to go that often. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
See, it's like when I said, like, if I faked my death, like, I'm going in the Alaskan wilderness, man. I'm gonna go live off grid in a cabin in the Alaskan wilderness because I'm faking my death because I don't want to be found. So why would I go to Argentina where everybody's going? I'm going to go the furthest away from everybody I can so nobody can find me.
right. Yeah, for sure, for sure. That I would think so. But there's two reasons why Elvis lived and fled to Argentina. Theory kind of caught traction. So the first one was a lot of people in Argentina have said that they have seen Elvis. They said they'll walk around the neighborhood and they'll see Elvis, and they said they're like, yeah, we've seen him. He's here. There's actually, I think, a short, like 9-minute documentary on YouTube made by some Argentinians where they're like trying to find Elvis, and they see this older guy in a wheelchair that looks like Elvis. They chase him down. Apparently, he drops a teddy bear, which they said, "Oh, this is Elvis's teddy bear." Um, I watched it. To me, I don't know. It just feels like a fake thing. But I mean, there to this day, there are a lot of people that will say, "Hey, we've seen Elvis here in Argentina." So that's the
Yeah.
first thing. But here's where there's a little bit of credibility to that. So the day after Elvis died, August 17th, 1977, um, at Memphis International Airport, a man resembling Elvis gave the name John Burroughs, and he took a flight without an ID to Argentina, um,
Hmm.
and the flight flew to Argentina. Whether John Burroughs actually arrived in Argentina uh, is unclear. However, this is significant because John Burroughs is the name that Elvis would give to hotels when he would stay there or when he would book hotels there.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so the day after he dies, a man that looks like Elvis Presley flies to Argentina, and actually a couple of days after his death, there was a report by one of the police officers in Argentina. He said that a plane arrived at kind of an unusual hour, and he said he couldn't really see who came, but he said he knew it was somebody famous because a lot of people started to gather around.
Hmm.
And uh, he said, he patrolled that part of Argentina all the time. He said, he knew when the planes would come and go. He said the time that the airplane came was very suspicious. So you have reports of people seeing Elvis in Argentina. You have a man named John Burroughs, who looks like Elvis, fly out of Memphis a day after Elvis dies and maybe allegedly arrived in Argentina at the time the police officer said he did. So,
Hmm.
well, what are you thinking? Does this sound credible? Does this sound weird? What?
I think to me, it's kind of like originally you're like, oh, he went to Argentina. I'm like, come on now, what is he, Hitler? But then like you start telling me like this one guy swears he saw this plane take off and he patrols this area. He sounds like a well-rounded member of the community kind of thing, and it's like, well, why would he lie? And he doesn't straight up say it was Elvis. He goes, there was just some celebrity that happened to be flying out of Memphis the day after Elvis died. Coincidence? Maybe Elvis did live in Argentina. Maybe he's actually buried in Argentina and he's still, I mean, he would probably be almost dead now because he said he was 42 and 77. So then he was born in 35. Well, he could still be alive.
He
He'd be
could be.
3 years younger than my granddad. My
Yeah,
granddad would have been 91. So he'd be like 89.
possibly, man. Possibly. Yeah. So I do have one more theory, and that will kind of do for this episode. I will say this: I'm not skeptical. Obviously, I think between between me and Will, Will's definitely the one that kind of takes things at a little bit more face value. I'm a little bit slower to come to speed, but um, definitely. I mean, if Elvis did do it, all these things together kind of point towards something. I would personally want a little bit more completely bought that yes, this was Elvis, and he flew out a day later, and he arrived in Argentina.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, going back to some of those health issues later, if I'm wanting to retire, Argentina is not a bad place. John Burroughs is a name he had commonly used. He's arriving at an hour that normally people wouldn't find it, and um, yeah, I don't know. If I don't know if I was faking my death, I don't know if Argentina would be the place I would go, but
No.
I mean, somewhere sunny, by a beach,
So what you're hearing, guys,
beautiful weather.
so what you're hearing is if me and Steven just like it's like Steven and Will like murder suicide or Steven and Will are killed in a plane crash or a car crash and like in the news means Steven both die at the same time, you know exactly where to find us. We're in the Caribbean and we're running a tiki bar.
There you go. There
And
you go.
Steven is dating some islander,
Oh my.
like a blonde chick with a really fake suntan.
Oh boy. You know what? We're gonna mention the blonde from Blue Room on this podcast, and now that's gonna be a joke, not just an inside joke, but like a podcast joke as well.
Well, I'm gonna work it into where it works in the podcast. Right now, the joke is that you're dating the not deer,
I, oh man.
dude. We'll get
One
on
of
that. We'll get on that
one of my
after this
friends
episode.
DM'd me, and she was saying that she said Beyond the Campfire has basically become a Sahil Steven like roast account at this point.
Do we really have? Well, it's our editor.
I know. We
Who
gotta
recommended her?
talk to him about making some Will roast at some point. So
Yeah, she did make. It was funny because you remember how she made the thirst trap of you.
yes.
Well, she made one for me.
Oh really? Okay, I was gonna say I was like it
Yeah,
only feels right that you would have one as well.
I get the thirst trap. Steven gets the
Does
villain.
your wife know?
Yeah, she watched it. She's like, "Ooh, that's my
She might
husband."
ask me. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So this is the one that I find more interesting because there's kind of two conspiracy theories. Um, both of them could end in Argentina. Uh, the second and final one. There's a bunch of Elvis conspiracy theories. I picked the two to talk about that I felt like were the best. Um, so this is the second one, and this is the one that I find at least slightly compelling. In the fact that it at least helped me have some more questions. And so this is what is called
Wait,
the mafia theory. So
you're telling me that Steven said, I'm going to choose the two that make the most sense. Argentina, chilling with Hitler, and hanging with Al Capone.
well, so not hanging with Al Capone, but maybe possibly running away from him. All right, so here's the theory. So we do know this much for sure. Elvis did have some ties, kind of with the FBI, and we don't know exactly what he did with them. Uh, we do know that at some point he had talks with President Nixon about wanting to serve his country, wanting to help catch bad guys, possibly infiltrating some mafia rings. We don't know whether President Nixon ever did take him up on that offer. What we do know is that Elvis had at one point gotten a plane stolen from him. So he had put out an offer to get his plane refurbished. And so he paid a guy $400,000 to go and fix his plane. And the guy that was supposed to fix his plane took the $400,000, took the plane, and flew off. So Elvis loses $400,000 and a plane. Obviously,
This is why we
Elvis is
don't use
not going to be
Craigslist.
very happy about that. Go ahead.
This is why we don't use Craigslist, everybody. All right.
I know,
If you use
right?
Craigslist, they're gonna take your money. They're gonna take your car.
Yeah. Imagine you paying tens, okay, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but maybe like thousands of dollars to have somebody fix your car, and then they just take your money and drive off with your car, right? But anyway,
That's
obviously,
the most cartoony shit. Like Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes type stuff.
I know, right? So here's where it gets interesting. So Elvis, and this is why I mentioned his wealth earlier, because this is where this starts to get somewhat relevant. But you know, if there's anybody that can kind of absorb this loss, it would be Elvis, who has tens of millions of dollars at this point. But so he goes to the FBI and he's like, "Hey, my plane got stolen. My hundreds of thousands of dollars got stolen," and uh, so he and the FBI do these investigations and they have all these talks. And the FBI actually has declassified a lot of these documents. So you can go and look at the 68-page report today of Elvis's discussions with the FBI, how they went about trying to get his plane, trying to get about his money. So, that's all good and fine. There's some conspiracy theories that have been made from the publicly available documents. I really don't find those to be that interesting or realistic. This is the part that's interesting to me. So there's thousands of pages of conversations between Elvis and the FBI that have not been declassified. Like they're classified, they're locked away, they're not open to the public. And when you ask the FBI for the reason, like, why can't we see these conversations between you and Elvis? And this is where the kicker is. They said it's classified for national security and for foreign policy reasons.
What is Elvis getting up to?
And I'm just
What?
like, what?
What?
This is like, wait, Elvis,
Elvis.
the FBI, national security and foreign policy. Like, what does Elvis
Elvis
have to do
has
with national security and foreign policy?
Elvis has the nuke codes.
I he has something, man. I mean, there's thousands of these pages, and we just don't know what's in it, and it's not open to the public because there's things there that, if revealed, um, would be a national security risk. Apparently,
Man, listen. What the FBI? Always the FBI. This is going on a TikTok reel. I know that. William's advice of the day. Okay. Don't trust the FBI. The FBI is shady and they are up to everything and anything. They're just as bad as the CIA.
this isn't really a conspiracy theory, but hey, man, what if they killed Elvis? People usually the conspiracy theory is that the FBI helped Elvis fake his death because basically Elvis helped them catch a lot of mafia members, and they're like, okay, yeah, you deserve to live your days in peace, and so they helped get him out. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe who knows what's in those documents? Who
We're
what was
literally
that
we are
what was the
seriously
heart attack
fixing
gun
to
you
have.
told me about?
Wait, what were you saying?
Isn't there like a heart attack gun?
Yeah, the heart attack gun that the CIA came up with. We are fixing to have. I'm telling you guys, there's going to be an episode where we literally go over everybody's, like, all these famous singers, actors' deaths, and we're just going to be like, the CIA killed that one, the FBI killed that one, CIA, FBI. Oh, ATF got involved in this one.
Well, so Will,
There's like,
here's why that's really interesting to me. The last autopsy report that was done on Elvis, they reopened it in 1994, and they said this particular pathologist said There was no way this was drug induced. Elvis had a heart attack, plain and simple. And although these are like widely varying reports, the one common theme is whether drugs were involved or whether drugs weren't involved, it did have something to do with his heart, and it was sudden. Which makes
Listen,
me think when you talked about the heart gun or the heart attack gun.
dude, I'm telling you, if it like the heart attack gun, okay, just a quick rundown for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about. Okay. I think it's the CIA. I think it actually was a thing that they were trying to develop, and it was a gun that they could shoot somebody with like a small little pellet that will not be like detectable, and it can make you have a heart attack and make it look like a natural heart attack.
Which is kind of cool. Like, if like as far as weapons go, like you can shoot somebody and cause them to have a heart attack. Like, can you imagine how many people you could kill and just like say, "Oh, it was an accident. They just had a heart attack."
Like literally, they do the autopsy and everything, and there's nothing to prove that it wasn't caused by anything. The autopsy reports, according to the way this gun works, is that as soon as they do the autopsy reports, all they find out is such and such had a heart attack. That's all they can detect. They can't
Right.
detect any drugs in the
And
system.
like,
They can't detect any pellets. They can't detect anything. You're literally dead from a heart attack, and nobody can say anything else.
see, and that's what pikes my interest because I'm just like, they can't figure out if drugs were involved. They said if drugs were involved, was it a little bit of drugs? Was it a lot of drugs? But the one common theme is his heart was affected. So I don't know,
What if
man. Maybe,
he knew too much?
maybe so. Maybe so. So I I am skeptical. I do believe Elvis died that day on August 16, 1977.
Yeah.
However, because of the weird stuff with the Argentina thing, because of the thousands of pages of documents of Elvis and the FBI having conversations that cannot be revealed for national security and foreign policy reasons, I'm just like, man, who's there's no telling what is in those documents and what light could be shed if those were ever revealed to the public.
Dude,
Um,
I'm like a Williams advice of the day. Okay. Don't trust the government. Don't get tangled with the government because you might end up dying by suicide or a heart attack or drug overdose. Just don't do it.
don't do it. Don't do it.
So then that like I mean this episode was supposed to be because Steven's like I got an episode idea. Elvis didn't die, and I'm like awesome, okay. And now I feel like we're at the end and we're like
Yeah,
Elvis
you probably died.
died, but
Or
how
did
did he
he?
die? But how did he die?
How did he die?
Did he
I
know
don't
too
know.
much?
Maybe so. But yeah, I think that will about do it for this episode. So we'll leave it to you guys in the comments and Instagram polls and whatever else we do to promote the episode this week. But yeah, what do you guys think? Is Elvis alive in Argentina somewhere? Was he killed by the CIA? Was he killed by the FBI? What exactly is in those documents?
Or did he just happen to get clogged and couldn't poop and died on a toilet?
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes the real answer is the most simplest answer. As boring as it could be, as boring as it
Dude,
could. But
when we get to heaven, there are so many questions I'm going to ask God. I'm like, listen, I know we don't care about what happens down there now, but you got to tell me, all right, one on one, did the CIA really kill Kennedy?
uh,
was was MLK killed by the FBI? Was Elvis killed by the FBI? Who killed the Iranian president? Tell me. I need to know the secrets.
John Wilkes Booth for all of
That's
it.
what we said. That's what we said. John Wilkes Booth killed. You saw the TikTok I posted?
I did see that. Yeah,
He is their winter soldier.
dude, John Wilkes Booth is going to be like our inside joke now on this podcast of like
You
who
want to
did
know?
this, and it's just the answer is always going to be John Wilkes Booth.
I know what happened to Elvis now.
9/11, John Wilkes Booth. COVID, John Wilkes Booth.
I know what happened to Elvis now.
But
He got too involved, and the FBI woke up their winter soldier, and he was killed by John Wilkes Booth.
He's killed by John Wilkes Booth. So
John Wilkes Booth did 9/11. John Wilkes Booth did COVID. Um, John Wilkes Booth tore down the Berlin Wall. John Wilkes Booth caused the Great Depression.
well,
He
yeah,
sank the Titanic.
just everything.
Just a busy man.
He's responsible for everything.
You know
He's
what's
Jack
funny
the
is
Ripper.
John Wilkes Booth. It's funny because me and Maddie are watching Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like we've already seen it, but we're rewatching it. John Wilkes Booth is a Time Lord, an
Really?
evil Time Lord,
No
just
way.
chopping around time to
that is
time, just killing people,
In
just killing
Doctor,
anybody. You want to know who caused the Roswell alien crash? John Wilkes Booth.
there you go.
Area 51. It's just a whole bunch of John Wilkes Booth.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Will, any last minute closing remarks?
Don't trust the government. That's always my remark.
There we go. You gonna give us one last Elvis impersonation before we end this one?
Well, thank y'all for watching, and be careful out there. Don't get too involved with the FBI if you know what's good for you. Because you might end up on the toilet dead. I'm just yeah, mama. It was
There.
funny because I was sitting there when I was practicing this impersonation. All I could think about was Johnny Bravo.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
There's a lot
mama.
of crossover.
Well, you lovely mamas, y'all stay hung up in love. Y'all have a good night, and don't let the FBI get you.
There we go. All righty, y'all have a good morning, afternoon, evening, and yeah, we will see you next time.
See you guys.